Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 16, Episode 158. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com. Thanks for being back with us this Friday, Steelers Nation. Dave, the day before the 4th of July. It's been a hot one out here in Pittsburgh. I'm sure it's been similar in Las Vegas. So I know we're both homebodies, both probably going to just stay put for the 4th of July, but wishing everyone going out to celebrate a very fun, joyous, and safe 4th of July on America's 250. So, Dave, how you doing? My voice cracked there. All right.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. My voice is fine as well too. But you got all your fireworks bought up and ready to shoot off here on Saturday night here?
Oh yeah, my Roman candles. No, it's going to be staying far away, and I hope the Steelers who go out there get to watch the fireworks. But from a distance, you're always worried about some report about something happening to somebody. And I know last year, although it's seemingly no fault of his own, Najee Harris, not a Steeler last year, but had an incident where he took a firework or something to the eye, and just hoping none of that happens. A very quiet weekend in the Steelers world will be good news for Mike McCarthy and company.
Yeah, just make sure everybody puts it in reverse, right?
Puts it in reverse?
You don't know the old Terry in the wheelchair gift that gets posted every year? He's lighting off those fireworks. Oh, yeah, you've had
I don't think I do. Maybe I've seen it. One of my head, though.
I know about 80% of the people listening to this have seen it. So I try to make a funny there, and you didn't even get it. But anyway, but just everybody be safe and all if you're going to go out and be on the streets and all like that. But yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to be sitting at home, I guess, watching ball games and sports. And I've kind of gotten into this World Cup and kind of watching all the matches when it comes to there. Still trying to figure out what offsides is it in certain situations here. But all right, as far as the Steelers go, not obviously a ton to talk about. I guess that's both good and bad. There's no huge, at least drama or anything going on with the team at this point, and we're in that 4-week stretch before training camp gets underway, and generally slow this time of year, and that's why we get these series together like the 90 and 30. And I know you guys are right, have a couple of series going as well too. But where shall we start on this Friday morning, July 3rd?
Let's begin with the little bit of news that we have on two fronts. One that just came in right before Dave and I started the podcast. The NFL is releasing its annual top 100 list for 2026 as voted on by the players, the 100 best players currently in the league. And Pittsburgh has its first addition to that list. That is safety defensive back Jalen Ramsey at number 82. It's a fall from number 66. Last year, he's slowly been descending the list, but still good enough to be a top 100 player, even though he's about to turn 32 years old and sort of making a position change midway through last year. So wasn't quite sure if Ramsey was going to make the list because the numbers weren't super gaudy, just the one interception that came early last year in week number 2, making that position switch, but made the Pro Bowl last year and now still hanging on to the top 100 list.
Yeah, this feels a little generous if you ask me, and if we're being honest overall, but it is kind of a name recognition type system here when it comes to the voting. We never really know how many of the players end up voting on this anyway. It does seem kind of, or doesn't seem like it is slanted to a popularity contest here. And I was a bit surprised when that popped in my feed this morning that Jalen Ramsey is in the top 100 this year. You had this position switch last year. Now, he did register 88 total tackles last season, and I think that tied his career best for a season going back to 2022 when he was with the Rams there. So at the very least, he can still tackle or is having an opportunity to tackle more. You would obviously like to see the splash plays be heavier with him. Now, he did have 3 sacks, I believe, in 2025, and I think that was a career single season best for him when it comes to that. Had 4 tackles for loss, 4 quarterback hits. He did play in all 17 games. He'd had the only one interception that you mentioned there, but I mean, I understand why I globally, I understand why he is in the top 100, but it does feel a little bit generous. And I know every year at this time we try to kind of get some pre-writes going on the guys that we think will be in this annual list. And I don't believe we had one for Jalen Ramsey because I don't think any of us really expected him to hit the top 100. But look, still a viable player, still has something to offer the Steelers, and more notably in 2026 as part of Patrick Graham coming in. It's going to be interesting to see how Jalen Ramsey is utilized this year on the defensive side of football. Can we see him get back to the point where making more splash plays? I mean, he's never had more than 4 interceptions in one single season, so I think he's still got a little bit of gas left in the tank there overall. And look, I've said it several times. This defense has got to really pull their weight, I feel, in 2026. I think Ramsey obviously will be a big part of that potentially happening in the secondary. But back to the main topic here, Jalen Ramsey, it does feel like a little bit of a gift that he's in the top 100 this year.
I don't know. Maybe this is black and gold colored glasses, but I thought his season was still pretty good last year. Now, was it exactly what Pittsburgh intended it to be? Absolutely not. He was supposed to be this. I mean, in camp, he was playing nickel, he was playing safety and base, but supposed to be, that shutdown premier #1 corner, dubbed so by Mike Tomlin over Joey Porter Jr. to take on Jamar Chase and those top end wide receivers, and that didn't happen. Ramsey's clearly lost a step. He really can't play outside corner and turn and run in man coverage anymore, and that's part of the reason for the switch. Also, partly after Juan Thornhill got released and just safety got pretty messy. Deshaun Elliott goes down. Lines got really thin there, but there still was a lot of good on tape. The start of the season was excellent for Jalen Ramsey. The NFL Network clip shows that big hit on, was it Garrett Wilson, week 1 to save that game, preserve the victory, gets the pick off Sam Darnold in week 2. I forgot how good of an interception that was, flipping his hips and driving on the ball. And then when he made that transition to safety, man, that Colts game, he's throwing his body around. He's still an impactful, heavy hitter. There's a presence to him where I think receivers don't want to go over the middle against this guy. So I still thought there was some good on tape. Obviously, it wasn't a great dynamic year. The splash wasn't quite there, but did have 3 sacks, and I think that might have been a career high for him. So I like the way he was utilized there. And I mentioned before, just having this full off season to make that switch to safety, to do that mid-season last year is so tough to do, even for a veteran guy who has a early college career background at safety like Jalen Ramsey. That's just so hard to make that switch and put on that other hat. So a full off season to kind of hone your craft, I think it could be a better 2026 for Jalen Ramsey.
You mentioned you had a key word within all that, presence, and he still absolutely does have the presence. He is a very intimidating. He's put together, isn't he? Still at his age, an intimidating guy, not a guy that you're going to push around. You saw that with the exchange. What was it with Chase and all like that? I think last year. This is a guy that's still feared whenever he's on the field there. And I guess you could use that same term, presence, as one of the factors here when it comes to him being in where he's ranked this year at 88 overall.
Yeah, this guy's never backed down from a challenge, and I doubt that's going to start to change in 2026. I'm glad you picked up on that word. I was reading back on my camp grades just casually, I think a couple days ago, and when I did my write-up on Ramsey, the first word I used was presence. In training camp, you could kind of feel that last year, and there was even some intangible things he did last year. I forget exactly when these were, but there were some stories. I think Roger shared one of Jalen Ramsey kind of giving a galvanizing speech to the team before one of their victories last year. So even though he's not a guy of many words, I don't think he likes talking to the media much, but it seems like when he needs to say something, people certainly listen.
Yeah, look, $19.5 million in cash is, I think, what he's set to earn in 2026. And, as part of a defense that's got a lot of money invested into it, he'll definitely be expected to pull his weight. And once again, I think everybody should be excited with Patrick Graham coming in. And look, we're going to see a 3-4, I think, the way it's supposed to be run. more. I'm excited to see kind of the mixing and matching in the secondary. You got Jamel Dean coming in. You obviously got Brisker being added to that. We just talked, I think, recently about Brisker and Deshaun Elliott as part of the 90 and 30 series, and you got some youngsters kind of mixed in there as well too. We'll see what happens with Eccles, who we just talked about recently there. But my entire theme has been all this off season that I'm obviously more excited about the defense than I am the offense overall. I like the changes that they made with Patrick Graham coming in, and I think if this team is going to make a run, it's going to be a team that posts 10, 11, maybe even 12 wins in 2026. I think the defense is going to have a large role in that happening, and obviously Ramsey being a core piece of that defense. They got to keep him healthy for sure at his age, and I think he's done good the last last several seasons of being available. He played in all 17 games the last 2 seasons here, and this is going to be a big piece of the defense. Would like to see him be around the ball a little bit more and get back to those 4 interceptions and continue to get after the quarterback, because like you said, one thing that we saw was him being able to rush off the edge, and career high 3 sacks for him is notable when it comes to his play last year.
Now, I've spoken pretty optimistically of Ramsey. I still believe 2026 very likely to be his last year. I know he's under contract further out, but just given his large contract and his age and declining athleticism, I mean, maybe if he really crushes it at safety this year and has a really nice year, there's a talk about him staying, but in all likelihood, 2026 probably his final year in Pittsburgh. He's never been one to stay in one place for too long anyway, just sort of been the career arc of Jalen Ramsey. So excited to see how he'll get used, but obviously a guy that's closer to the end of his career than the prime or the beginning of it. But, I still think, top 100 is certainly out of respect for what players
Right.
think of him, but I think there's also still some good tape last year. I'm excited what he can do in his second year with the team.
Do you think he can be a top 5? I don't think he was last year, because obviously split roles and kind of the way things kind of transpired in that defense. But going into this year and I guess essentially being termed a full-time safety now at this point, do you think he can be a top 5 safety in the NFL in 2026? And if so, you would think his ranking would be even higher than 88 at this time next year, right?
In the entire NFL, safety across the board, probably not. I'm going to say that's pushing it, but I think wherever you want to rank him, he can still be a quality safety and make an impact.
What do we just need to see more of? Impact plays?
Yeah, that'd be nice. No forced fumbles last year, a little uncommon for a physical hitter the way that he is, although he can separate player from ball like that Jets game that we talked about. So just some more splash, but really just honing your craft at safety, really understanding the position and just getting the time to really learn it and rep it and not just kind of be thrown into the fire the way that he was last year. And so I think just naturally that'll make him more comfortable and even better at the position.
All right. What other? Let's see. Probably going to see Watt.
Real quick on Ramsey, we are what, 1 month out, plus a couple days on his, and I'm a little messy on the details, his option bonus situation.
Yeah, they just got they're obviously going to exercise that. It's just in a matter of how they're going to handle it from a cap perspective. He has a option bonus of what was it, 7 point something million, and the determination just needs to be made by, when is it? September.
Oh, it's September.
Late August, I think. It might
Okay.
be the last day of August there, where they have to decide how they're going to handle it. Are they going to prorate it, or are they just going to let that money stick in its entirety for against the cap for the 2026 season there? So that how they handle it will decide what his ultimate cap number is. I think right now it is. Oh, I don't have everything in front of me right now. Let me see if I can pull it up here. His cap number right now, as it's because the NFLPA automatically, because it's an option bonus, designates it as being not only picked up but prorated out. So right now his cap hit sits at 17.229 million for the 2026 season if the Steelers decide to take that $7.4 million option bonus and not prorate it, and thus let it hit for and impact all of 2026. Then his cap number will go up, I think, to around I forget what it is, 21 million or something like that. So they're, and this team is a team that doesn't have a lot of cap space right now. Now, another option they could decide to do is take that option bonus and then a chunk of his $10 million base salary and combine that all together and then prorate it out, which would drop Jalen Ramsey's cap number even lower than 17.229 million. So, when you get into talking about whether or not this team will end up restructuring the contract of, either TJ Watt or DK Metcalf or one of, two or three players that potentially open up cap money, I think it's important to remember that they, especially if they think Jalen Ramsey might play through the 2027 season, they might decide that, okay, well, let's just go ahead and give him some of that base salary as in the form of a signing bonus, in addition to prorating that option bonus as well too, and let's clear cap space that way. Do I expect that to happen? No, and mainly because I'm with you. I think 2026 could be more than likely will be his final season. But if they feel like he can continue to play and maybe even play 1 or 2 more years, it would make sense instead of touching these other contracts, or maybe just have everything happen with his contract and free up some additional cap space that way. Would it still prevent them from having to do a restructure with, say, Metcalf or Watt? It's kind of hard to tell, especially not knowing how the final 53 is going to shift out. We're going to see a couple of veteran cuts along the way that frees up some additional cap money. Guys like Malik Harrison, what's going to happen with Mason Rudolph? Brandon Eccles is a guy we talked about, even though you're not going to save a lot of money there, but you start cutting 3 or 4 of these players that are inside the rule of 51 now. Those things add up come the start of regular season. So yeah, Jalen Ramsey's cap number is certainly something to watch here moving forward, for the sheer fact of how are they going to handle the option bonus? Are they going to prorate it, or are they going to take the full hit of it in 2026?
And you said that due date is late August. Is there a specific date?
I think it's like August. It might be the last day of August. I just know it's late August, and I think it's I don't have the exact date on here. I do somewhere. I just don't have it in front of me.
Okay, because I was thinking it was early August for some reason. So if it's the last day of August, that'll be Monday the 31st, which is the day after cutdown date, right?
I believe so. Let me see here.
They changed it this year, much to my chagrin, because I have a wedding the day before. But Sunday, August 30th, I believe, is the cutdown day instead of the Tuesday after that it was before. Not that Ramsey's in danger of being cut. I'm just saying it'll be a busy time of year for Pittsburgh to do all those things.
Yeah, 8/31. So August 31st is the exercise date on the 2026 option bonus. And keep in mind, he's also due, talking about 2027, a little far out now, but there's another option bonus of $9.6 million for 2027 as well too. So obviously that's not guaranteed, but it's something to think about when it comes to if he does decide to stay another year.
That's also for next August or next March of 2027?
Next August.
Okay.
Yeah, the option bonuses, different teams handle them different way as far as exercise dates and all, but the way it's set up in Ramsey's contract, these have been in late August.
And that's all because that's the contract Pittsburgh took on when they traded him from Miami. That was Miami's doing. Pittsburgh likes to do their bonuses in March. It's good for the player too, frankly, but that's the contract they had to assume. And
you generally just don't see the Steelers do option bonuses unless they inherit it from another team.
Right. I guess I should say they do the roster bonus in March. It's what their typical MO is. All right, Dave, good stuff there. Yeah, you mentioned the other Steelers probably to appear. We would expect TJ Watt, although probably a lot lower on the list this year than where he normally is in that top 15 range. And then Cam Hayward has been sitting in, I think I forget where Cam's been at on these lists, but I would expect and hope he would be on it one more time.
I agree.
And I assume
Aaron Rodgers isn't going to make it, right?
No. I was thinking, could Joey Porter Jr. make it? Could a DK Metcalf make it? They're already at 82. You never know, but I'm going to guess the only Steelers that'll be on the list will be Ramsey, Hayward, and Watt.
Okay.
All right, Dave, some other news here, and this is relatively minor but important for those like me going to training camp. I was getting a flood of emails from Ticketmaster the other day at like 10 p.m. or whatever time it was. Like, what is going on? And it is alerts the Steelers have modified their training camp schedule, and the times for it, the dates are all the same, number of practices all the same. The times are just slightly changed. When the schedule was first released back in May, it was 11 a.m. practice across the board. Now they vary. The first practice, July 29th, for example, is 11:20 a.m. The 30th, 11:20 a.m. July 31st, 10:30 a.m. So they range from as early as 10:15 on Saturday, August 15th to 11:20 p.m., putting aside the night practice that's still Saturday, August 8th at 6 p.m. So not quite sure the rationale for the change, maybe in some respect to mimic whatever in-season schedule Mike McCarthy has planned, but it's a variety of morning times now updated on the team website.
All right. Tell me how I should feel about that.
Indifferent, probably, because the Steelers Depot Las Vegas Metroplex will be doing business as it usually does. But just for my schedule, and of course, anyone attending practice, you want to get there plenty early, but the due times are important to know.
All right. So in other words, instead of having a set, you're going to have to look day to day at what time you're.
Yeah, not a fan of that.
It obviously impacts you, and you're probably not a fan of this because it's you're just going to have to check on a day by day basis of when you have to leave the next morning to go to Latrobe out there. But we'll get through it as we normally do. But it was interesting to see. I wonder if they're going to have a lot of people confused now with these changes going, being announced when they're being announced.
Yeah, I am not sure. It's going to be a little bit interesting, but you and I, we're creatures of habit. And so having to have this variety is not my favorite, but those are all first world problems. It'll be fine. Excited to get out there in just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, about 4 weeks. Let's see. What's the actual date that they report?
July 28th report date, July 29th first practice.
All right. So let's see. That would be about a little over 4 weeks, right?
A little under, about 3.5
Oh,
weeks.
little under. Okay.
All right, Dave, let's go to your 90 and 30 series. Moving right along now. We're in the H's beginning with Malik Harrison, the inside linebacker, signed last year over from the Baltimore Ravens, gets hurt in week 1 with a knee injury, comes back later in the season, plays on special teams, plays in a base role. Your thoughts, expectations for Harrison in 2026?
Yeah, probably a guy that we've had a few conversations about during the offseason here, particularly ahead of the start of the new league year, when you could make a good argument that Malik Harrison, could potentially have been I don't cap casualty, just one of the offseason moves where you see some contract terminations and all. Obviously, that did not happen. You're talking about a guy in Harrison who signed a 2-year, $10 million unrestricted free agent contract in March of 2025, and that came obviously on the heels of him playing for the Baltimore Ravens his first 5 NFL seasons after being drafted in the 3rd round. The most unfortunate thing I think with him is kind of right out of the chute there, missing time due to what did he have there? It was a knee injury that landed him on the team's reserve injured list for a span of games last season. I think he missed 2 separate kind of spans of games overall there, but you got 11 regular season games out of him. He played just under 300 regular season snaps on defense, 158 more on special teams. He logged 25 defensive snaps in the playoff game last year. Most of his 2025 snaps came as one of 2 inside linebackers being on the field at the same time. I think there were a handful of snaps where the Steelers actually had 3 inside linebackers on the field at the same time. Wasn't very many of those overall. His special teams play, 4 total tackles, with 2 of those coming in week 1. That was a game I think that he sustained that knee injury on in initially there. He was what you would consider, when he was healthy, a core special teams player for most of the games he played in 2000 and during the 2025 season as well here. I think when it comes to what he is as a player, he's definitely a second. I don't consider him a guy that you want as being, the lone inside linebacker on the field in any type of situation. He's a complement inside linebacker. During his time in Baltimore and a little bit of time, I think briefly during this past season, he's a guy that can line up on the edge and give you edge rushing capabilities. Obviously, with this linebacking crew that the Steelers have heading into this offseason, assuming all those guys stay healthy, you wouldn't think that you see Malik Harrison on the edge much of any. Definitely at least third on the depth chart behind Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson. Although, if it's more run orientated in a certain situation, I think we saw Harrison on the field instead of Peyton Wilson for a handful of snaps there. He's part of a depth chart this offseason that obviously includes Queen, Peyton Wilson, Cole Holcomb, Carson Bruner, even though Carson Bruner's only played one defensive snap during the regular season play to date. He is a prime and premier special teams player on this team under contract. You would expect Bruner, even though once again could be potentially the 5th inside linebacker on the depth chart, is going to make the 53-man roster. You would think, although not guaranteed, Cole Holcomb's got a pretty good shot at sticking around once again. And then you've got a lot of also runs, if you will, competing as well too. And I've been on this train for quite a while. People think I have some sort of vendetta against Malik Harrison. I don't. I just try to look at it at what he provides to the team versus what he's getting paid, where he fits into the depth chart. I still believe that even though it didn't happen at the start of the new league year in March, I still believe that there's a chance that Harrison is not on the week 153-man roster via him either having his contract terminated or potentially maybe him being traded. Even though he does play some on special teams, I don't view him as a guy. I think they've got enough new bodies now on this team and guys to compete that they could easily alleviate his role as a core special team player this offseason. I think he's more of a downhill player as far as an inside linebacker role goes, and the fact that the base salary that he's set to earn 4.75 million in 2026, unless he takes a pay cut. I still stand on my stump that I think nobody should be writing his name in pen when it comes to the 53-man roster.
So if he's cut, what does the inside linebacker room look like? Do they carry just 4? Could Herbig potentially float as a emergency 5th? Would Windman make it? I mean, what does the construction of that group look like?
Well, that goes back to the several conversations that we've had, especially since the draft took place and a couple more bodies have come in free agency. This roster construction is going to be very interesting to play out, especially if you're going to end up where you get Eli Heidenreich in the conversation maybe at some point. I don't think they're going to keep 4 quarterbacks overall. Charlie Batch certainly doesn't think they're going to keep 4 quarterbacks. But what if they do? Where's that extra roster spot going to come from? How many total running backs are they going to keep on this roster? I think it all comes down to long story short, I can't answer that question, but I could see this 53-man unit consisting of 4 outside linebackers and 4 inside linebackers, 8 in total to help maybe possibly open up a spot for kind of a fringe guy, Heidenreich, Geez, I mean, go down a list of the 4 or 5 players that we've had conversations about. It would be interesting to see how if they could squeeze onto the roster here. So, obviously, if they keep 5 inside linebackers in total, that improves Harrison's chances of making a 53-man roster. But what if they don't? What if they only keep 4? Does it come down to a situation where it's either Holcomb or Malik Harrison? You would think so, specifically if you are writing in pen the name of one Carson Bruner, which I am. So I think it's yet to be determined there. So and that's another reason why I think Harrison is not a guarantee to make the 53-man roster this year.
Sure, I think I put him at 60% odds in my roster deconstruction post. I think two key factors surrounding Harrison will dictate his spot. One, the development of Carson Bruner. If he could become that next man up behind Quinn and Wilson, there might be more comfort in cutting ties with Malik Harrison, who was acting as that next man up when healthy last year. And then what does the base package look like? Can Peyton Wilson reclaim that role? Because he lost it, as I mentioned before, early last season. Holcomb went in because Harrison was hurt. Once Harrison got healthy, he took over the base 3-4 role because they didn't trust Wilson against the run. And so can Wilson have that role? If so, that'll really make Harrison a peer backup, a special teamer, a good special teamer with a deep resume, but a pretty expensive one at that. So if Bruner can have a good summer, if Wilson become the base guy, and he's the guy week 1, then that could give Harrison the squeeze. If not, if Bruner doesn't take a big step forward, if Wilson continues to struggle against the run, I could certainly see them keeping Malik Harrison.
What is Malik Harrison's superpower, or what? Let's have a the two Bobs conversation. What does he do well? What do you do here?
He's a four-phase special teamer and a thumper against the run.
Okay, and I would
agree?
agree. Yeah, I would agree.
Now, he's not a Landon Roberts. I think Roberts is a little more, disregard for life and limb in terms of his mentality. But Harrison's certainly a downhill guy. He's a guy that plays against the run. Certainly not somebody's going to run and cover and drop into coverage or turn and run and man. I mean, but he's a downhill hitter. That has been his personality. He does that job, I think, fairly well. But there's a niche rule to it. But there's certainly been a value in Harrison's career.
For the amount of total defensive snaps that he played last season, the missed tackles is concerning with him. Yes.
What was his missed tackle rate? I don't have it in front of me.
PFF has it at 9. I haven't looked at what Josh had him at.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't sound good because he didn't play a ton of snaps last year. I thought his run defense was as expected. It was fine, but it's still not quite to that Roberts level of this dude is just a little bit different on the field.
All right. What are the primary differences? What does Malik Harrison give you that maybe Cole Holcomb doesn't?
I think a little more downhill against the run, even though Holcomb, I think, did fine there last year, but I think Harrison a little more of a thumper. And then Holcomb has never been that real core special teamer. He was trying to get some more of those reps last year because he had to. But you do kind of wonder, okay, if Holcomb's going to be this number 4 inside linebacker, but also not be a 25 snap a game guy on special teams, what is his role? Is it just as reserve depth and play on 2 phases on special teams? But I think you would say that Harrison is at least the more accomplished and the deeper resume on special teams, if not the better player there.
All right. Could you definitely see a scenario where both Holcomb and Harrison are part of a 5-5 room?
Sure. I mean, I think the safe answer is the room's going to just run it back because that's how it's sitting right now. I mentioned before, the one position group that really was not touched in terms of changes is inside linebacker, where Queen stayed. They could have traded him. Peyton Wilson's still around, obviously. They could have cut Malik Harrison already. They still could, but they haven't cut him yet. They re-signed Cole Holcomb. They kept the inside linebacker coach and Scott McCurley. The group is really just the same group as last year. And so that would tell you they have no intentions of changing that going forward. But those 2 factors I mentioned, Wilson, his base run defense, and Bruner's development will be impactful factors.
And how much of an edge does Harrison get because of the fact that he can rush off the edge somewhat effectively?
I mean, he's played outside linebacker. He was doing it in Baltimore and sort of their kind of big, penny fronts, the 5-man fronts. I mean, he's not really a pass rusher. And when you're deep at outside linebacker like Pittsburgh is right now, I don't think that's really going to be much of a factor for him.
Especially if all those guys stay healthy, you should not see him in that role.
What percent? I gave him a 60% chance in my deconstruction. What percent chance would you give him of being on the week 1 roster going into
I'll
Atlanta?
cut yours in half, man.
Ooh, 30%,
Yeah.
that low.
I
Wow.
this isn't new for me, right?
No, I'd never heard your odds on it before. I know you were certainly questioning on the salary, and I understand that, but 30% feels too low.
Okay.
All right, we'll see though. I mean, it just I it just depends on, I think, those other factors. Because 'cause you're right. If Wilson is gonna be the base guy, then Harrison is a pretty expensive backup and special teamer.
All right, I think this is the 6 that we're gonna talk about today, he's probably the one we're gonna spend the most time on there, probably gonna be the biggest lightning rod, and, I'm interested I think who's that one guy, Mike Odessa, thinks I have a vendetta against him, and I know how he would respond to this, but what is everybody else, listening, to this? How do you feel that we presented Malik Harrison in this 90 and 30 series, and what percentage of chance do you give him of making the 53-man roster? Alex and I are really split, kind of different on here. So interested to hear feedback on him, particularly as part of our talk of these 6 players today. The Terrible Podcast at gmail.com. If you want to chime in on that, maybe that'll give us something to talk about when Alex isn't here for the Monday show, because we'll have, I think, either Ross or Josh Carney sitting in on Monday there. All right, go to the next guy on our list here, newcomer.
Yeah, it is Amari Harvey, and I gotta say, I think it's gonna be one name upcoming that might be as in-depth and maybe lightning rod-ish, and Eli Heidenreich, who's gonna be the talk of training camp. But before him, it is Amari Harvey, the latest addition to the roster, signed earlier or last June or earlier. What am I trying to say here?
Last month,
Signed
late
last
last
month.
month.
There we go. There we go. Amari Harvey signed, and he's been outside cornerback. Yet to, I think, appear in an NFL game, as you note. He was signed in May by the Denver Broncos as an undrafted free agent. He goes 5'10", a buck 85, so not exactly the big, long type Pittsburgh typically has at cornerback, but he'll be competing for a spot. Obviously, a very uphill battle to make it, but maybe practice squad if he shines well.
Yeah, played 43 games while at Georgia Tech, mostly as an outside cornerback. He totaled a little over 1,600 defensive snaps at Georgia Tech to go along with 271 special team snaps. As you mentioned, he was a combine invite in 2026, but I don't think he did much of anything because of I think he had a dislocated ankle or something like that. There, he was also an East-West Shrine Bowl invitee, although he didn't, I don't think, participate in any of that due to that same injury there. When you look at his play overall and what he was originally signed by the Broncos as an undrafted free agent. Let's see, what else do I have on him? He was a team captain occasionally, I think, at Georgia Tech, so that's a plus for him. But look, when you look at the Steelers' deep kind of cornerback depth chart right now that they have going into training camp, one that also includes Dalen Everett, who we talked a lot about just recently in this 90 to 30 series. Harvey figures to have a tough road ahead of him when it comes to training camp, especially being such a late offseason addition, because, I mean, this guy, no OTA practices, no mini camp practices for him, so he's got to get on that proverbial moving train and quick. Although he did play on special teams, from my research on him from his college days, he wasn't considered really a huge asset in that phase of the game. So he's certainly going to have to try to change that narrative about himself once he gets into training camp. I think, obviously he's way outside the 53-man roster bubble as we approach training camp. I think he's going to have to, stay healthy. Obviously, for all of training camp and the preseason, we'll see if he ends up lasting that long, because he is the last man in at this point, and a lot of times those guys end up being the first man out. And even if they don't get injured, if lines get short somewhere else and they need a roster spot, he could be the first one to go there. So I think it's going to be a huge accomplishment overall if he merely makes the practice squad. So I expect him to get outside corner snaps in a limited basis when he can during training camp. We'll see how much he can play during the preseason there, but don't get used to saying the name Amari Harvey, and until he sticks in training camp and starts making potentially some noise during the preseason. I think at best he's a practice squad player.
You're right, and he had some success at Georgia Tech. He had 3 interceptions, I think, as a maybe sophomore in 2023, had a good year in 2024, and then had those injuries that you referenced sort of mar his senior and final season in college. So if I'm Amari Harvey, I'm going to have a conversation with Daryl Porter Jr., and I say that because Porter Jr. got signed mid-training camp, so even later than Harvey last year, impressed immediately. I remember Terrell Austin talking about this guy catching our eye, got in the preseason, captured a practice squad spot, stuck, and made his NFL debut late in the season. So go talk to Porter and say, hey, man, what's the path? You were in these shoes, long odds, moving train, low on the depth chart. How did you get through the other side and still be here? And that's probably the guy that you want to look at if you're Amari Harvey.
Right. Never want to call these guys camp bodies, right? But he is close to it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the reality is he is on a 91-man roster. He's probably, 90, 91, something like that. And so the odds are tough. I just don't use camp body out, and I know you don't either, out of sign. It's
out of respect.
Yeah. It's out of respect to just recognize that they're people with a journey, and you never know when a guy might surprise and make it, like a Daryl Porter Jr. last year. So just out of respect to them, I never like to use the term.
All right. Next one. You say it might be a lightning rod. It is to some degree. I don't think it's going to be. Now, look, I've got some black and gold colored glasses on when it comes to Eli Heidenreich, and it's probably going to show when we talk about him here. But he is the next guy on the list, right?
Yeah, and I say lightning rod because let me ask you the question just right off the rip. We're going to dive right into it, Dave. What are the odds Heidenreich makes the 53 for week 1?
I'm going to give him. I'm going to give him at least 50-50.
Okay, every Steeler fan is going to email you right now and say it's 100%, and you're wrong. That was the feedback that I got when I left Heidenreich off my way too early roster prediction post-draft. And if I do it again before training camp, it'll probably get the same feedback because I think the consensus is right or wrong that this guy should make it. It's a crime of Pittsburgh to lease him off the roster.
All right, and look, he's going to have to prove that even more at the NFL level over the summer here and during the preseason. I mean, what is there to not like about the kid overall, other than the fact that maybe he's or the Steelers list him, I think, as a true running back, and he never really functioned in that kind of true traditional lineup in the backfield, get the carry between the tackles. Now, he was used in the running game quite a bit, obviously at Navy, but you see him line up kind of as an H-back and take handoffs that way, part of kind of a pitch game or an end around game as well too. He still could make plays. I mean, he registered 1,157 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns on 169 carries while at Navy. The thing that makes this guy so unique, and we're Swiss Navy knife is not a new term when talking about him. It's kind of a cute play, obviously, on the Swiss Army knife thing. That's exactly what this guy is. He can play running back in addition to wide receiver. He registered nearly 170 carries at Navy. Very few of those, once again, came with him lining up as a traditional running back. I think I think his tape, when you dive into it, especially these last 2 seasons, is the work that he did kind of as a receiver. This is a guy that can line up in the slot. He can line up out wide. He gets open. Now, you can look at the level of competition that Navy mostly faced, but I mean, he even showed up in, the Notre Dame game. This is a guy that he's a I hate to use the term football player, but he is a football player. He can get open. He can make things happen. It was fun. It was fun in some respects to look at his measurables and during the NFL Combine to see they use Christian McCaffrey as a comparison to him. Now, is he Christian McCaffrey? No, I get it with a lot of things that he did, specifically kind of being a jack of all trades kind of player, and the fact that he had success both as a runner and a pass catcher. This guy does everything. Once again, his ability to get open. I think a lot of if the Steelers hadn't have drafted him, and I know he's because it being July 4th and all, he's on kind of a media tour right now this week, talking about obviously coming out of the service academy, and with it being July 4th, he's doing a lot of interviews and all right now. But this guy is the real deal as far as being able to be a multi-position kind of chess piece, if you will. I think it will be interesting to see if what kind of burn maybe he can potentially get on special teams. I think we're obviously going to see a lot of him on offense, particularly in second half of the preseason games. But I'll tell you what, you talk about guys that he's potentially competing against in training camp and the preseason for a roster spot. I don't think you can just say, okay, he's competing against Travis Homer or Caleb Johnson, or even if you want to shift it to the wide receiver side, Roman Wilson or whoever else, Ben Skoranek or whoever else you want to put in there. His biggest competition, I believe, when I went back through and started writing this up, his biggest competition for a spot on the 53-man roster is the Steelers coaching staff. How's that?
What do you mean by that?
I think they, and I said this not long after they draft him as well too. They owe it to this kid now because of his skill set and because of them drafting him, and the makeup of the roster. They owe it to him to give him every opportunity to do the things that he did at Navy to show how versatile of a player that he can be offensively. And Mike McCarthy did kind of mention that they need to kind of utilize his skill set, what he did at Navy. They just don't need to throw him in the backfield lined up as a traditional running back, getting carries in between the tackles and make a determination. Well, we need to see that as part of what's going to end up being a fast-moving training camp and preseason here. But they need to see just how creative they can be, and they need to try to utilize him as best as they can to the way that he was used at Navy. And if they do that, and if he's able to stay healthy, I think he's going to turn some heads, and I think he could make for some interesting conversations here at the start, once the preseason is over with, of how do we end up we've got to find a spot on the 53-man roster for him, and how do we go about doing that? So I think his biggest competition, because he is a kind of a multi-positional player, and if indeed he can run down punts or something along to get himself a part of maybe at least two special teams units, he's going to have a shot at making this 53-man roster, I believe. After all, Art Rooney II called him the best seventh round draft pick this team has ever had, right? So I just think that his biggest competition is the Steelers coaching staff.
And for those who made the point, Rooney made that comment about the pomp and circumstance of the seventh round pick and just the cool nature of him walking out on stage and all that stuff. But yeah, to your point, I mean, he certainly has a realistic chance. No question about that. You love the kid, you love the story, but he's also a really talented player. This is not just a feel good charity thing, throw the local kid a bone to have that kind of moment. I mean, he's a talented player, and I think he will certainly have some really impressive moments this summer. The question is, as you're getting at, how do all the pieces fit? How does this guy, where does he play? What's his spot? Who does he take the spot of? And what's his game day value? But I think he certainly can make a name on special teams like any other player fighting for a spot. That's going to be critical. And he's going to have a leg up there on Caleb Johnson, I would think. And could he match Travis Homer's special teams value? He might. If he can do those things and have more value than Caleb Johnson and at least the same as Homer, but more offensive value, that certainly could give him the edge. He's going to have to adjust to a pro-style system, as you said, his footwork and just everything about kind of, the playbook and where he aligns and how an NFL offense runs will have to be an adjustment that some other guys don't have to make quite to that level. And while I want to see his whole skill set on display, and I imagine it will be, he's not going to be the focal point of this offense at any
Right.
point, the way that he was at Navy. So he'll have to adjust to fewer opportunities and making the most of those opportunities and not trying to press and do too much when those opportunities do arise. Now, I don't know if it's a good or bad thing that you have guys in similar situations. Jeremy Bernard was a chess piece at Alabama, Caden Weegan, a chess piece at Iowa. Those guys will get their touches too, but at least the offense is kind of being built in mind to some of these chess piece type of guys. So I don't know if that's a benefit overall, plus or minus for Heidenreich or not. But yeah, he's going to have to just be able to adjust. And I think if he can really make his mark on special teams and make some splash plays, which I think he's certainly capable of, he's going to push hard for a spot.
Look, we'll both agree on this. Probably not the number I'm going to throw out here, but Heidenreich is 17 and a half times the offensive player that Cade Weegan is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly how to calculate it, but he certainly was a much more prolific player. Weegan was drafted as a primary returner, and
Right.
Heidenreich was drafted for, what he potentially could be offensively. But, they're adjustments for both because they're both going to have to kind of do the same thing at the NFL level without sort of the concentration on their skill sets.
And listen, if you're going to make the 53-man roster and your name isn't Weegan, you are definitely not got to be a guy that can not only dress but you have a plan to get him on the field. You're not going to make him one of the guys on the 53-man roster, particularly the game day active list there, and him only play four special team snaps a game and maybe one offensive snap. So you got to have a plan for him. And look, I distinctly put it in here. The Steelers need to take a long look at the diverse ways that Heidenreich was used at Navy and then duplicate that as much as they can during training camp and the preseason, because he is a player that can make things happen on offense if the Steelers can get him the ball in various manners there. So once again, I think too, he can help his cause if he can is he gunner capable? We don't
Yeah.
know, right?
Or a wing. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
anything on the punt team. I think he's probably more of a wing or an up back. Could he get some of those up back reps there as the quarterback of that unit?
Right.
It's a big ask for a rookie, but I think he might. Probably more of a wing or a
Okay.
tackle on the punt team. But either way, just creating value on multiple teams units. I think that's going to be important for him. The big thing also, can he pass protect? Did not
Right.
have to do really any of that at Navy. The ball was in his hands. They didn't throw the ball, traditional drop back fashion a ton, and so that's a key component of running back play when you're protecting an Aaron Rodgers or young quarterback in Will Howard or Drew Aller. Can you protect your quarterback? Now, I assume he's going to run a lot of routes and be involved in the pass game and all that kind of stuff, but pass protection is going to be still, part of his job description. So I think he's going to make some plays this summer. I'm excited to see him. You're right. They need to put a lot on his plate, which can be a little tricky as a rookie, but I think he's got the broad shoulders to do it. He's a smart kid. He's done it before. He has nothing but time. There was an interview that just aired, local news station, I think WTAJ it was, and he talked about that. I got so much time now. Whenever he was in the service academy, it was just so nonstop in terms of his service, Navy obligations, and then football on top of that. Now the focus is just on football. So for him to really be able to go full all in on just the sport, I think we'll have him ready to absorb all the NFL and all the coaching staff should and will throw at him.
All right. Do you think the listenership here is going to think I'm over selling him? You started off with saying, man, a lot of people are going to be upset saying he's a 100%. I think I'm being very, very fair with him, and I am bullish on him, and I think that's the takeaway is I think this kid has a legitimate shot at making a 53-man roster.
Yeah, I think he does too. I think I'm similar on kind of the coin flip odds for Heidenreich just because there are so many variables at play. But I think, from my experience at least, unless you're talking about him and he's going to make it, then you get some pushback. I mean, you're bullish on him. I definitely hear that in the way that you talk about him. But so why, quote unquote, only at 50%? What is the other 50% that's preventing you from putting him higher on that percentage
I
metric?
think you got to see him function in that true running back role, and
Yeah.
I want to see that. I want to see but that shouldn't be the main focus. Put him in the running back room, give him the snaps as a true running back, attempting to run between the tackles. and see how he does in pass protection. Obviously, the identifying and the effort. Look, in situation where he was asked to block or it was mostly stuff on the move and all, and I thought he handled that quite well overall. But we don't have the tape on him as you stated, as a true running back. Play action, diagnosing stuff, eating up grass and taking on defenders there. That's something part of what he's going to have to show. If he shows promise, albeit he's not going to get a lot of reps, you wouldn't think in those two specific areas as camp and preseason goes on. If he does show promise in whatever work he's given as a true running back, in addition to trying to do some things with him like happened at Navy, and then if he can show some capability or usage on special teams, that's going to up his chances even more.
Oh, no question. And although you're right, the well-rounded skill set and the versatility that he has is really important. If he makes his team, it's going to be as a running back, like the running back 3. Is that fair to say?
3, 4. I mean, we haven't gotten to Travis Homer. How does Travis Homer fit into this? And would it end
It's hard
up,
to think they're going to keep 4 true running backs, though.
Yeah, but I mean, once again, we talk about how do you carve out some of these roster spots, and I mean, I think it's going to be interesting. Is Caleb Johnson out the door? Is Travis Homer also out the door because of the things that Heidenreich could do? It's plausible. Yeah, I mean, at most they would probably keep 4 running backs, especially if you consider Heidenreich to that to be his position there. But that's why I think it becomes down more of his competition being a Steelers coaching staff as opposed to position groups or in individual battles.
I just say that to say if he's running back 3, you're one snap away from being part of that rotation, one injury away, and so you got to still be a defined running back where you can do everything a running back needs to do, which is of course your base run scheme and the footwork there, and then IDing in pass protection and blitz pickup and all that kind of stuff. So I still think that running back component is going to be at the core of Heidenreich, the evaluation. Then of course the more special teams value he can offer, the better, which he certainly has a background on, and I think a leg up already on Caleb Johnson. So, I think about that Johnson, even though you're right, it's not necessarily he's competing with just one guy, but I think him and Caleb Johnson can Heidenreich show more value as a receiver, a special teamer. I think it's the leg up there on both accounts already. Can he kind of get there as a runner? And can he make some splash plays in the preseason? Make some big plays in the preseason. A couple of big runs will probably really heighten his odds of a roster spot.
All right, it goes without saying he's got to stay out of the tub for the entire summer too, because any missed time will probably end up with costing him a shot at the 53-man roster.
Yeah, for sure, no question. So it's going to be a really fun player. I'm sure we'll get daily questions about him at training camp, but certainly one of the top guys you want to get eyes on, not just how he's doing, but where is he being used? What are reps and snaps looking like? There's a bunch of running backs. I mean, Caleb Johnson needs a ton of snaps. Lou Nichols had a good preseason last year. He's going to get some work in. So there's not going to be a ton of time for Heidenreich, certainly some, right, but not nearly what he was getting at Navy where he was the dude. And it's not going to be like that. I'm sure he's aware of that. And so you got to maximize those chances.
Yeah. And once again, I mean, training camp's going to go fast. So is the preseason as well, too. So there isn't a lot of time for him to showcase everything that he can do. But at the very least, this coaching staff needs to give him an opportunity to show all that he can do. And that's tough to do. So that could potentially be one of the factors that ends up with him not making the 53-man roster, is just not getting enough reps or enough time to show everything that he can do.
And finally, ball security is job security. So I think he was pretty good at it at Navy. I don't have his numbers in front of me, but obviously that's always paramount, is take care of the football, don't drop the rock.
He did, I think, return what? He didn't function a lot as a return man, but at least he does. I think if you got into a pinch, you could use him in a return game.
Yeah, you note here 9 punts for 54 yards on in the return game in 2024. So, Weejan you would expect to start, but backup return is always important. The kick return spot opposite Weejan is still up in the air. I think Heidenreich has a skill set that would make sense to get a look back there, but we shall see.
All right. pretty good conversation through these first three, and there are going to be two really familiar names in these next three, and one not so familiar.
And we'll start with that not so familiar, although guy that's interesting to me in Jack Henderson, a safety signed to reserve future contract earlier this year. I think he spent some time on Pittsburgh's practice squad last year, as you note. I think this guy, even though in a deep safety battle with a lot of attention, rightfully so, on the rookie seventh round pick Robert Spears Jennings, Sebastian Castro, the veteran Darnell Savage, I think Henderson's a name to watch, Dave.
Yeah, this is where I benefit from my own selfish reasons the most from for doing the 90 and 30 series, is learning about a lot more about players that I knew a little about, such as the case of Jack Henderson. Signed to reserve future contract back in the middle of January. Obviously, not a newcomer to the team because he was on the practice squad for a little more than a month late last season there. Entered the NFL in 2025 as an undrafted free agent out of Minnesota, where he played 2 years there. His previous college experience, he spent 3 seasons at Southeastern Louisiana there. The Falcons originally signed him as an undrafted free agent, but waived him less than 2 weeks later. He latched on with the Carolina Panthers and remained on their off-season roster throughout the preseason. They waived him prior to the start of last season. He signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a member of their practice squad for week 1. They cut him a few weeks into the regular season, and he became a Steelers practice squad player last October there. During his career at Minnesota, which obviously was for only 2 seasons there, played in 26 games, 103 total tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 3 interceptions, 2 passes defense, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. This is where it gets interesting with him. Now he's listed with as a safety with the Steelers. He played quite extensively, and I went back and double checked some tape on him as well too. He played quite extensively in the slot at Minnesota, and then if you go back even further and look at Southeastern Louisiana, he was primarily a slot defender there as well too. Mostly played near the line of scrimmage as a box defender, occasionally used as an edge rusher as well too. Really look, if you're going to define him as a safety, he's more of a box safety than anything else. But a lot of times you don't see these box safeties that can that get the trust specifically, let's say in the Big Ten, as a slot defender. There, I thought he functioned very well as a slot defender. Good tackler, and this is what I have on him. While the Steelers do list him as a safety, Henderson's college experience as a slot defender is something that I believe can't be ignored. He should probably be viewed as a box strong safety and one who can cover in the slot in addition to rushing the quarterback from the edge position should you need that. He was able to get practice squad work with 3 different teams in 2025 as an undrafted free agent, and I think that's something else that can't be ignored. Heck, the Buccaneers had him on their week 1 practice squad after him not being with them throughout the camp. That's tough to do in today's NFL, even with teams keeping 16, 17 players on a practice squad there. So I think he should be a decent special teams player throughout the preseason. It's going to be interesting to see once training camp gets open how they utilize him. Do we see him in the slot, which has kind of been his forte in college? I doubt we're going to see traditional type free safety stuff with him. I think you're going to see him more in the box and things related to what you would see maybe more of a strong safety do. Now look, the Steelers went out and got brisker this offseason. You obviously had a position switch with Ramsey. You've got the Eccles slot discussion that we had a few days ago. On top of it, it's going to be an extremely tough path for him to make the 53-man roster, and I think that's quite obvious here. Here's the thing, though. I think that he's going to have a legitimate shot at being a practice squad player, specifically if he shows that he can play in the slot and play strong safety throughout training camp into preseason, and goes without saying that he's going to have to show that he can be a quality special teams player throughout the preseason as well too. A lot of ifs, a lot of coulds, a lot of shoulds in there, but there is more to this guy than I think meets the eye, and at least what I learned a lot about him by deep diving in him here, because I think the most interesting fact with him is his slot capability.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad we're kind of aligned in sort of the intrigue in Jack Henderson, and one of those deep sleepers, but sleepers all the same. And when I wrote up his futures report earlier this offseason, I had a similar conclusion. The more you read, the more you learn, the more you like, and the more you're intrigued by this guy. He's got good size, good testing. He jumped 40, almost 40 inches in his vert. He ran 4.54, which is a respectable time at almost 6'2", over 200 pounds. This guy's also pretty new to football. He's playing lacrosse until his senior year of high school, and then he took on football full time, went to Southeast Louisiana, transferred up to Minnesota for his final 2 seasons, and really had a strong senior season for Minnesota. So, yeah, obviously, when you talk about his standing, Brisker and Elliott and Ramsey, just don't put those guys aside. They're in different worlds. It's competing with Castro and Spears Jennings and Savage, because you have potentially 2 safety spots up for grabs. You mentioned that the top 3 are going to be the 3. They could keep up to 5, maybe 4, but could keep up to 5, which leaves some open spots there. And so Henderson, you're right, closer to the line of scrimmage kind of guy. That's going to be his skill set. But I wouldn't be surprised if he got a little bit of buzz when the Pats came on.
Yeah, definitely a guy to watch. A guy that, once again, I knew a little about before writing him up, and now I feel like I know a lot about him. And I think he's definitely a guy from a deep depth potential practice squad capability. I think he is a guy, if he can stay healthy, he is a guy to watch during training camp and preseason. He's another guy that right out of the chute, I'm going to be asking you in training camp. Is he getting slot work? Positionally, how are they using him? And then obviously, once we get into the preseason, we'll get or I'll get better eyes on him. I think he's going to get some pretty decent playing time during the preseason as well too, specifically in second halves of games. Because look, you're probably not going to play Ramsey all that much. Elliott, the same. Brisker, you probably see a little bit of him, but what are you going to do beyond that? You got Spears Jennings, you got Savage, you got who else?
You said Castro.
Castro, obviously going to get some burn. So I think he could be, a guy that gets a lot of burn in the second half of preseason games.
Yeah, and special teams going to have to be his path. Obviously, that's going to be the really one way that he can make a mark in terms of making the 53 or pushing for a spot. But good defensive tape in the preseason will be really important to at least do practice squad. Yeah, I mean, he could play in the slot. My expectation is he'll be third-team safety, which you have 6 safeties on the roster right now. What Brisker, we'll include Ramsey as a safety, Elliott, Castro, Spears, Jennings, Savage, and then Henderson. Okay, there's 7. So, we'll see if Ramsey floats around, but can Henderson get that 13 strong safety work and play in the box and play over slot against, when maybe twin receiver sets or running back motions out, stuff like that? We shall see, but I'm intrigued by this guy.
If they keep 4 safeties in totality on the 53, odds are probably pretty good. You'll see 2 of them on the practice squad, maybe.
Right, you probably will keep 6 in total, at least, whether that's 5 on the 53, 1 on the practice squad, or 4 and 2, like you said. So you got 7 guys. There's an odd man out there, and most would probably say Henderson is the odd man out. It's the most obscure name of the names we're talking about, but I think he's got a chance.
All right. If you're listening to this, circle Jack Henderson on your roster sheet. There is someone to watch at the start of training camp and on through the process here.
All right. One name that you should circle, but you'll be well aware of, is Nick Herbig off his $100 million contract extension to keep him in Pittsburgh for the long haul. Obviously want to see how this new coaching staff wants to use its top 3 edge rushers of TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and Nick Herbig, what 3 outside linebacker packages could look like. I don't know if we're going to see much of that in the summer. We didn't do that, or didn't really see that in the past under Mike Tomlin. Could be different under Mike McCarthy, of course, but obviously now expectations even higher for Nick Herbig fresh off his deal.
All right, I made sure to open up this 90 and 30 series segment right up on him by scolding both of us in a roundabout way here. I said the Steelers certainly got a steal when they selected Herbig in the fourth round of the 2023 NFL Draft, despite him being knocked heavily during the pre-draft process for his less than ideal arm length, us included. Many draft nicks, us included, wondered if he might have to move from the edge to the off-the-ball linebacker position at the NFL level. Herbig has shown, more than shown, in his first 3 NFL seasons that he can indeed play on the edge and be very productive to boot. So how's that for an opening with him?
Yeah, I like it. No, I mean, it's a reminder of the draft that we're always prone to getting things wrong and trying to learn. And, Herbig's a pretty unique guy. And to be fair, Herbig even thought he was going to play off linebacker. That was the expectation. That was all the feedback he was getting. We mentioned Aaron Curry going into his pro day. He was the off linebacker at the time, and he didn't know he was going to play edge until Pittsburgh drafted him. And I think he was talking to Denzel Martin, the edge coach. And so, it's been a good on Pittsburgh for giving Herbig that chance to prove himself at the position he played, and not overthinking it, and obviously it's really proved dividends.
All right, through his first 3 NFL seasons, he has done nothing but get better in all areas of his game, and I believe in run defense as well too. One of the things that we kind of knew, at least as an edge rusher, he would be effective with the speed component around the edge, but he has shown that he can bull rush guys. He can split the gaps inside. He's very, very elusive. He is a point A to point B player for sure. He can get down the field in a hurry here. He logged 610 defensive snaps and 119 more on special teams last season. He did have a couple of games due to a hamstring, so he probably would have played a little bit more on defense if not for those injuries, as we've noted throughout the offseason here. And specifically after they signed him to that $100 million extension, how do they go about they've got, undoubtedly they have to find a way to get him on the field more in 2026 as part of the defense. You wouldn't think, I think we noted something like 37 snaps last year as part of a 3 outside linebacker package. Now within that, we had the stat, I think that only 8 games last season were all of Watt, Highsmith, and Herbig actually active for those games. So would we have seen more than just 37 snaps in the 3 outside linebacker package? Had all those guys been dressed and ready to go for all 17 games? Hard, you would think, but to what degree? What's a predictive snap? It's all going to depend on down, distance, situation, playing time. Long story short, they've got to find a way now to get him on the field more in 2026. I believe they will. I think the fact that at least listening to TJ Watt talk about being more open to playing on the right side is intriguing to think about, and especially since so far during his career, we've seen Herbig be able to play both on the right and left side. We've also seen Herbig have some limited success in the limited amount of snaps that he has been asked to rush up the middle against opposing offenses there. The big thing here is just, can he get more playing time, and can we continue to see improvement with him as a run defender off the edge? I think we can. He did miss 7 tackles last season. If there's one bugaboo about his play last season, it might be the missed tackle aspect of his game. But this is a guy that is one of the premier at this point, even at the minimum amount of sacks that he's played, of stripping the football away from opposing quarterbacks. I mean, and you would think that he's even going to get even more creative in that aspect there. If he gets himself close to the football, he is going to be ball hunting, as the kids and Mike Tomlin like to say these days. It's just, I mean, he's still relatively young at this point, just 24 years of age. You would think he's got plenty of more great football left in him. There's no reason to think that Herbig's 2026 season won't be his best one to date. This team needs to get their season sack total back over 50 once again, and getting at least 10 sacks out of Herbig in 2026 should help that unit accomplish that goal overall. They've paid him now. They've paid him handsomely, and it's, part of having three highly paid outside linebackers on the roster is a great luxury to have, but it comes with the responsibility of trying to find a way to get all those guys on the field and utilize them the best way to and highlight their abilities. Now, he has played obviously quite a bit on special teams since entering the NFL. You would think that we would see a little bit of a reduction, probably more than just a little bit of a reduction of special teams need out of Herbig moving forward.
Yeah, I imagine really not going to play many snaps on there, even though he can do it well. But his focus is you pay $100 million. We're here to play defense and to really make an impact there. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I just want to see all the pieces fit. I want to even see Herbig on the left side. Traditionally, I think his production's been much more on the right side than left side. Maybe in part because TJ Watt sort of anchored that left side. So there's just more
Right.
snaps on the right side when Highsmith and Herbig rotate. But I think Herbig has looked a little more comfortable on that right side than the left side. If all the pieces are going to move around, if TJ Watt is going to move around, then by extension, Herbig and Highsmith will move around too. So just want to see all the creative ways that Pittsburgh utilizes all three of those guys, especially on the field at once. Again, I don't know if we're going to quite see that in the summer. I know the Steelers typically hid that stuff and kept it under wraps in the past. And obviously, preseason snaps, how much work will those guys get? A little bit probably, but not a ton. And it's pretty vanilla stuff when you are out there in the preseason. You want to, don't want to give away a whole game plan for Atlanta week one. Out of the jump. So excited for Herbig. I think his run defense is better than people give him credit for. It might be a little unconventional in terms of how he does it. It might not be quite that true edge setter, but I think he does a great job against tight ends and can duck around offensive linemen and make plays that way. So, a hair on fire kind of a guy, a real humble learner that's been glued to TJ Watt every day training camp, his whole NFL career, learning from him each day, learning from Alex Highsmith as well. And even Marcus Colton, he's credited that. He's credited to watching Chandler Jones. And so a guy that really just has a good head on his shoulders, a good football IQ, a great work ethic to learn and get better each day. So well-deserved. Obviously, you got to get all these mouths to feed and figure out how it's going to work. And everyone's got to stay healthy. And Herbig's not been perfect in that regard either. But, happy to have that group be such a strength for this defense.
All right. And that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, obviously we'll be talking about it a lot, especially once the season gets going in terms of how all those guys are mixing in, how the coaching staff is getting creative with them. Next and last on today's list is Cam Hayward, the ageless wonder, back at it. Contract situation taken care of early this offseason. Thank goodness for that. No saga that happened last year, but Hayward's still running strong into his late 30s.
Yeah, I started this off with writing Father Time keeps trying to nip at Hayward's heels, but based on the way he played in 2025, he's still several steps ahead. Or Father Time is still several steps behind the 37-year-old former first-round draft pick. 78 total tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks last year, 9 quarterback hits, 6 passes defense, and 1 forced fumble. He did also play in the Steelers playoff game, obviously, and had 3 total tackles in that game. While his defensive snaps totals have declined since 2021, he still logged just over 800 last year, which was roughly 71% of all regular season plays. He also registered another 129 on special teams during the regular season. Was voted second team All-Pro last season. He was the only interior defender to earn a 90-plus grade from Pro Football Focus last season, for whatever those listening want to take that being worth. He still defends the run as well as any defensive tackle in the NFL last season. And while his sack total was down last season, he can still, get after opposing quarterbacks effectively and consistently, and he rarely misses tackles as well too. That was another thing that stuck out about last season. Look, he still remains tops in the NFL when it comes to getting those long arms up. Something we've talked about, something that guys like Harmon and these other defensive linemen need to learn from. No one's better, I believe, in the NFL, especially from a defensive tackle position, of getting those arms up and into passing lanes and either batting balls down or batting them up in the air there. They adjusted his contract, as you mentioned, this offseason, give him a little bit more cash for 2026 season. They also added a year onto his contract in case he decides he can make it an additional year past 2026. When it comes to his outlook, I firmly believe we could see a duplicate of his 2025 season, and that not being out of the question. It would be nice to see a few more sacks than he had last year. I think the Steelers effectively, bolstered their defensive line depth this offseason with Sebastian Joseph Day being brought in during free agency, and assuming Harmon stays healthy and Black, can take some snaps, and whoever else makes the back end of this roster on the defensive line, they should be able to keep Hayward's total defensive snaps somewhere around the 70% number, and that I think is perfect for him. Keep him healthy, hopefully, and I think he can have the same production. If he can register 8 sacks in 2026, which is certainly, I think, an attainable number still, despite only having three and a half last year, he will hit 100 for his NFL career. And if his play remains on par as it with 2025, we could see. I think there's a chance Hayward could earn yet another All-Pro designation, first team All-Pro, and that would be the 5th of his NFL career. And if he's able to hit the 100 sack mark and get another first team All-Pro designation, that would significantly bolster his Hall of Fame resume. So defensive captain going to be again in 2026, and I'm looking really for a repeat of 2025 plus maybe a handful more sacks, Alex.
Well said. There really isn't much else to say. I think he's one of those quintessential Steelers in terms of his play, his approach, his work in the community. Walter Payton, Man of the Year, former winner. And so he is a Steeler through and through. Is he a Hall of Famer right now? If he didn't play another snap, even though, of course, we know he will in 2026, does he make the Hall of Fame?
Oh, boy. That's a tough one. I'm going to say he's not a slam dunk.
Okay. But if you had to guess, would he get in?
I'm gonna hurt a lot. I'm gonna get some
Uh-oh.
feedback. I don't think right now he gets in. I think if he hits that 100 sack mark, and if he gets another first team All Pro designation, that'll be enough to kick the door down.
I think he would get in. I talked about that. If he had a couple of good years after the groin injury that he had, kind of bounce back, that would be enough to get him over the finish line. Not first ballot, but I think he would get in eventually. But obviously, the more that he can add to that, then the greater those odds will be.
All right.
But yeah, it's just more of the same. Yeah, you're right. Can the pass rush be a little bit more? Maybe there was a bit of a decline there last year. There were a couple of almost sacks, maybe one or two that TJ took away from him. So he probably could have had easily 5 or 6 sacks last year. So I don't know if he's going to get back to the 8 sack. Just historically, for a defensive lineman at his age, it's even though Hayward is doing a lot of ahistorical things right now, to get 8 sacks, to be 37 years old, I'm not sure if that's really ever happened before. But 5 or 6 sacks, the run defense is still elite. The effort is still unbelievable. Like I said, a Steeler through and through, and I'm just really glad the contract stuff is all put away so it doesn't become an issue or distraction. Hayward got obviously a lot of bad PR last year for the whole hold in and wanting an adjusted contract. That he did get it adjusted, but really he was just a bunch of incentives and stuff. Did he hit any of those incentives last year? Those were all team based, right?
I believe so, right?
Yeah, so I think he kind of, there were some missteps there in terms of how all that got handled. And I don't know everything that happened behind the scenes. I know he approached the team way back when, wanting a contract, and it took a long time for that to get resolved. But point is, I'm glad it's all behind him and the team. Focus going forward, getting me on the field this year, and then just being a mentor to Derek Carmen and Y.A. Black and these young defensive linemen, Gabriel Rubio, who's got that kind of body type of Cam Hayward and Kevin Jobity, and just having to. It'll be interesting. Maybe the most interesting thing for Hayward is just he's a new head coach for the first and probably the only time in his career in a new system, and he's been so used to these old heads like him and TJ Watt. I mean, guys have been in this system forever. They have to adjust. They kind of probably feel like, in a small sense, rookies themselves, having to learn and not just be the elder statesman that, okay, do X, Y, and Z, and this is how this works, and they're going to have to learn some of this stuff through them. But I think that can be invigorating, where you kind of have to really get back at it and get back in the playbook and treat yourself like a rookie, and that can maybe be some positive things for both those guys.
All right, is 8 sacks plausible, and what percentage chance would you give for Hayward hitting 8 sacks in 2026?
Plausible. I would say possible to split hairs, where, yes, it could happen. I'm not going to say it couldn't happen for Hayward. I really would not expect 8 sacks. So what percent chance? I mean, we're just giving arbitrary numbers, 20% would be my guess on Hayward and 8 sacks.
All right, that seems fair. What would be the over under you would set for Hayward? 5, 5.5?
Let's go 4.75.
That's okay. If you're listening, are you taking over or under 4.75 sacks for I see why you did that.
Yeah, I don't want to push.
Yeah, because the half there. Good on you. Over or under, listeners, 4.75 sacks for Cam Hayward in 2026. Email us theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. All right, Alex, those are the 6 that I've got right now. I think we'll have probably 9 more potentially to talk about on Monday with myself, Ross McCorkle, and Josh Carney. All
right, yeah, good deal. Appreciate those guys in advance for filling in. I'll be back on the Wednesday show. Just last thing, I finished up my top 10 freakiest athletes in Steelers history. 1 and 2 just went up today. I'll read off the list here, and you tell me your thoughts. I'm getting some positive feedback, a lot of why isn't this guy on the list? And I hear you, it's tough to fit 10 into the Steelers history. So read down, I'll do a David Letterman style 10-1, 10 Carlton Hasselring, 9 Big Ben, 8 Antonio Brown, 7 Jerome Bettis, 6 one of my guys, Eugene Big Daddy Lipscomb, 5 Cordell Stewart, 4 LeVon Kirkland, 3 Alan Faneca, 2 Rod Woodson, and the freakiest athlete in Pittsburgh Steelers history, number 1, Troy Polamalu. Your thoughts, Dave?
Yeah, you're not going to get a lot of pushback on this list overall. Kirkland, I suppose, because of the size of what he was able to do.
Oh yeah, has there ever been a player since like him at 260 pounds that could run and move the way that he could? I mean, he wasn't the best inside linebacker; he was a very good one. But I mean, in terms of but when I define freak athletes, like somebody with like a skill set and a size and build, it just was uncommon. That's why Ben is on this list. Like Ben, obviously, is not winning 40-yard dashes, but his athleticism, his strength, the way that he played the backyard Ben the first half of his career, so rare, just kind of a freak for what he did. And that's why Ben's on this list, because I did it relative to their body type and their framework, and just you would not expect a guy built like that to play the way that he played.
All right, I don't have really much of it, really any pushback as far as your list goes. I'm more interested in what are you hearing from the readers as far as what about who are the guys they think should be on the list?
Dirk Dawson, which is probably fair. That may be an oversight on my part. I put him on the honorable mention list. Ryan Shazier, which is obviously worthy. Mel Blount, I've got a lot of Mel Blount that he should be on this list. Wish we had a real 40 time on Mel Blount. Obviously, it was kind of pre-40 time. Great athlete, super physical. Some have said, is Faneca too high? Should Faneca be third on this? As I thought he was a great athlete. The way that he moved in space, the way that he pulled was super rare. But I don't know. What do you think? Is 3 too high for Faneca?
My man, Faneca, you're not going to get pushback from me when it comes to guards. He will pull the way that he did. I mean, just look at the long. All you need to do is pull up that Willie Parker long run in the Super Bowl, and Faneca's rolling that. And the case can rest at that point there. He did that a ton throughout his NFL career. And, we don't see enough of that today in today's NFL, really.
Yeah, I mean, the number of screens or downfield plays where Faneca's leading the way, I thought throughout his career was just absurd. And so that's why I thought he was worthy of being on the list. And then, Hasselring, not one of the legends, but the fact that he didn't play college football and goes to the NFL and has a good career, that strength, the wrestling background that he had really made him kind of a freaky guy. And for those who don't know, Big Daddy Lipscomb, one of the first athletic big man in NFL history, played 2 years in Pittsburgh, 6'6", 200 pounds, incredible athlete, was unofficially credited with like 153 tackles in 1 year. I mean, it's just crazy, crazy stuff there for Big Daddy. So if you never read it, I think it's now offline, which is disappointing, but you can find the archive version of it online. Go read the Sports Illustrated article from, I think, 1999, The Ballad of Big Daddy, one of my favorite sports articles ever. It does a great view of all the good, bad, and just the entire life story of Big Daddy Lipscomb.
I thought at one time I put a link to that in my Twitter feed during an off season one time. I'm going to have to go back and reread that as well.
Yeah, it might be dead. It was in the Sports Eye or SI vault, but I think that
Right.
went offline through all the just destruction of everything we loved as a child. So I found it on just the archive, web
Okay.
archives. You know what else I read? It's a very random. What was the guy's name? I just go read this article, Dave. It's a long article, and I know this is not maybe your purview, but you said you've been watching the World Cup more. There was a really good piece from The Athletic on the article is the disappearance of Wee Willie McLean. This is a soccer player, U.S. national team in the early 30s. The guy disappeared. No one had any idea what happened to him. I forget the authors of The Athletic, but they did tremendous work tracking it down and solving the story of where Wee Willie McLean went. So I'll send that to you. It's a long read, but well worth it.
Yeah, send that and tweet it out as well too. And I'll see if I can't find the archive version of the SI Big Daddy Lipscomb article and retweet that out. I could swear that it's probably been a couple years ago that the hard version before it was pulled down. I've got the link somewhere,
Yeah,
but
I'm sure.
I'll tweet that out on this Friday for listeners to maybe find and read over the weekend here. All right.
Good deal, Dave. Anything else? If not, we can get to some reader listener emails and close out today's show.
Believe it or not, I guess it's because of the time of year and all like that. That I think we're caught up on the reader emails there. So I think we got about an hour and a half into this show. I think it's a great way to end the weekend. What are you doing on Monday?
Going on a trip. It's going to
right.
sound very dorky, but my mom wanted to take a trip. I didn't know where to go, like just some work, quickly before training camp. So we are going to, it is Shady Maple Smorgasbord. It's the largest buffet in America. It's out in East Earl, PA. It's kind of the Amish country, I think, a little bit.
right.
So take a little trip there just to do something. So that'll be fun.
All right, you gonna post pictures?
I'm not. I want to survive it first.
All right.
The buffet, but I don't know if I will. I'll tell the story, I'm sure, on Wednesday.
All right, sounds good there. Have a good trip. Enjoy your trip there, Alex. And as mentioned, either Ross or Josh or both, I think, will join me on the Monday podcast. We'll click through some more of the 90 and 30 players and get their thoughts on a few other things related to the Steelers as they creep closer to the start of training camp. So you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. And also, if you like an ad-free version of the site, SteelersDepot.com, hit the ad-free button and follow the directions that way. So until Monday, happy 4th of July weekend. Be safe out there. And as always, we'll talk to you. Well, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.